right, happy Wednesday. We are talking about one of the simultaneously most beautiful passages in Deuteronomy and also what could be one of the weirdest. So I'm just going to read a couple of parts of this and then we will talk about it. Deuteronomy chapter 10, this is how it opens. And now, Israel, what does the Lord your God require of you? But to fear the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to love him, to serve the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul, and to keep the commandments, statutes of the Lord, which I'm commanding you today for your good. That's the beautiful part. What does the Lord require of you? Like everything. Love the Lord, follow the Lord, walk in his ways, serve him. A beautiful way to read this passage would be to take out Israel and put your name in its place. And now, Alex, Susan, Ra, whatever it is, whatever your name is, what does the Lord your God require of you? And then follow along. What is that saying to you? This is the beautiful part. But then in verse 16, it takes for us in the West a weird turn. It says, circumcise therefore the foreskin of your heart and be no longer stubborn. Okay, why are we all of a sudden talking about circumcision? For us, this is a metaphor that doesn't mean a lot because circumcision doesn't mean a lot to us. It's a medical thing that happens to boys when they are born, and then we don't really think about it much after that. So why is the Bible bringing this up? Well, circumcision in the Hebrew Bible was a sign of the covenant that God made with Abraham way back in Genesis chapter 17. Abraham agrees to follow the Lord, and God says, okay, every male in your household is going to need to be circumcised as an outward sign of an inward reality, as an outward sign that your body, that you belong to me, that I am going to be the one to guide your family, where it's going to build your family from this time until the end. All your descendants belong to this family of God and are going to carry this blessing through the generations. Okay, so what does that mean for Moses here in Deuteronomy with the second generation of Israelites after the Exodus in Egypt? Well, I think what this is saying is there's actually going to be a new covenant. This is pointing forward to a reality that would come with Jesus. Moses is saying, if you're going to do all the things that I just talked about, all these things that the Lord your God requires of you, loving him, walking in his ways, serving him, keeping his commandments, if you're going to do that faithfully, something is going to have to happen on the inside of you, to your heart. Remember, we talked with the Shema about what the heart means for Israel. The heart in the ancient worldview was the seat of your positive and negative emotions, your will, your desires, your decision-making, your worldview, all of your intellectual and emotional activity. It's what makes you who you are from an internal standpoint. And so what Moses is saying is something about the very core of who we are is going to have to be cut off and remade if you're going to be faithful to God. Okay, so here's where I want to turn to an Old Testament prophet who took this idea and expanded on it. This is Jeremiah chapter 31, starting in verse 33. Just listen to these words. This is the covenant I will make with the people of Israel. This is the new covenant, so to speak. After that time, declares the Lord, I will put my law in their minds and write it on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will they teach their neighbor or say to one another, know the Lord, because they will all know me. From the least of them to the greatest, declares the Lord. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. This is the reality that Jesus came to bring into the world. A reality where we're available to change the wiring of our hearts, to follow Jesus, to follow God into faithfulness. We actually believe that we can be faithful because Jesus has given us the model to faithfulness. And so it's as we follow Jesus, as we link arms with him as disciples to know what Jesus knows and do the kinds of things that Jesus does so we can become like Jesus. That is how our hearts become rewired into the kind of people for whom following God is just part of who we are. This is what our current series on Cultivate is all about. Partnering with the Spirit to create in us the kind of people who produce the good fruit that the Spirit talks about in Galatians 5. So how do we do that? Well, it's exactly what it says. We have to follow after Jesus. We have to surrender our lives. And if you don't believe me, look at verse 20 in Deuteronomy. It says, "You shall fear the Lord your God. You shall serve him and hold fast to him." That's the key. This phrase, hold fast to him, we've seen it before. Does it sound familiar to you? This is the exact same phrase that's used in the Garden of Eden to talk about what Adam and Eve are supposed to do to one another as spouses. The two become one flesh. They're supposed to cling to one another, hold fast to each other. And it's through that relationship, that marriage, their partnership together, that they will be able to be fruitful and multiply and bless all of the earth through that relationship. Okay, well, here we see Moses using that exact same image. Israel clinging to their God in the same way like a spouse. Israel the bride, God the groom, the two clinging to one another. That is what makes us available to have that good fruit and to live the abundant life and to bring blessing to all of those around us. It's the exact same image. We are called to cling to God as if God is our spouse. This is why the New Testament picks up on this image and calls the church the bride of Christ. So what does that look like for you? I hope you'll spend just a few minutes in prayer today just asking God, how can I cling to you? What am I clinging to? If it's not you, Lord, what am I clinging to? Where do I need to open my hands and let go of some things that we shouldn't be clinging to in order to make space to cling to our real spouse, the real one who deeply knows us and loves us and wants to produce in us the kind of good fruit that we all desire? Just spend some time in prayer over that today, and I hope it blesses you. Amen.